Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are taking a deep dive today into the KPMG Global Tech Report for 2024.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic report.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They surveyed over 2,400 tech professionals globally.
Wow.
And they also interviewed leaders from companies like Microsoft and Salesforce.
Really gives you a good look behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's a behind-the-scenes look at what's really driving tech decisions this year.
In 2024, yeah.
So we're going to cut through all the hype in this deep dive
Definitely.
and try to figure out what's actually important. So you listening can make smarter choices too.
For sure.
Whether you're leading a team or building a product.
Or just trying to keep up.
Yeah, or just trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Right, for sure. I think that's the case for a lot of us.
Like having a secret decoder ring for the tech world.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond just the headlines.
Really does.
We're talking about, like the real pressures that companies are facing.
Yes.
The tough dilemmas and even some of the hard-won triumphs. You know?
Absolutely, as they're trying to navigate this ever-changing landscape.
Yeah, constantly changing.
Constantly, yeah.
So let's jump right into it.
Okay, sounds good.
One thing that really struck me was this feeling of, gotta have it now.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
It seems to be kind of permeating the entire tech industry.
Definitely a sense of urgency.
It's like everything's moving so fast, right?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
I mean, the report found that 78%, that's a huge number of tech executives, feel like they're constantly struggling
Wow,
to
78%.
make up with the pace of change.
It is a lot, yeah.
It's so fast.
It's that progress paranoia, isn't it?
It is.
You're just bombarded with all this news about the next big thing.
All the time.
And you suddenly feel like you're falling behind if you don't jump on it immediately.
Right. And then on top of that, 80% of those same executives also said
Oh, wow.
that their leadership is too risk-averse.
That's a tough combination.
This is a really tough spot to be in.
Yeah, how do you even reconcile that?
Right. You feel all this pressure to innovate.
You have to.
But then you're also afraid to take risks.
Right. That's like a recipe for disaster, almost.
It seems like a recipe for not making the best decisions.
Exactly, you're stuck.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what are companies actually doing in response to this pressure?
Yeah, what are they actually doing?
What's the solution?
Well, the good news is that we're seeing this shift away from simply copying competitors.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of playing follow the leader, companies are looking for more diverse perspectives.
That's a good thing, I think.
It is.
To bring in more points of view.
Yeah, you need different viewpoints.
So they're consulting with third-party experts, for example.
Exactly.
Running more in-house trials.
Yep, and really doing their research
Really digging into the data.
before they make any big investments.
It makes sense.
It does. It's a much more informed approach.
It's like they're doing their due diligence
Exactly.
instead of just chasing the latest trends.
They're thinking for themselves,
Being more strategic.
which is so important.
It's really refreshing to see.
It is. It shows a real desire to lead.
Just react.
Exactly. And there's this great example in the report that really shows this shift.
Oh, tell me more.
So you know those things that drive investment?
Yeah, like what?
Things like customer feedback.
Makes sense.
Well, those are actually up 15% this year.
Oh, wow, that's significant.
It is.
Companies are really prioritizing real-world value.
Over just adopting the latest shiny new object.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's about practicality.
But speaking of shiny new objects,
Oh, here we go.
the report also highlights this tension
Yes.
between adopting the new and fixing what's already broken.
Right. The age-old dilemma.
It's always a challenge, isn't it?
It is. It's the allure of the cutting edge versus the reality of what's lurking under the hood.
Exactly.
We all have those systems that need some love.
We do.
A whopping 74% of companies admit they are prioritizing those new investments
Really.
over tackling their existing tech debt.
It's like that overflowing closet
I was just thinking that.
that you just keep shoving more stuff into.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
And eventually it's just all going to come tumbling out.
And you don't know where to even start.
Exactly. And the report throws out this pretty shocking statistic, too.
What's that?
57% of companies say that basic IT flaws disrupt their business weekly.
Weekly. Wow.
Imagine that every week something breaks or glitches or crashes.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
It's a productivity killer for sure.
Huge source of frustration, too.
Absolutely. And think about it. It's not just companies, right?
True.
I mean, how many times have you been in the middle of something super important
Too many times.
and suddenly the website crashes or the app freezes?
Happens all the time. Yeah.
Like, come on.
the worst.
That's that tech debt rearing its ugly head.
It is.
It's tempting to just ignore it
I know, out of sight, out of mind.
and focus on the new and exciting stuff.
All the shiny new toys.
But the report makes it clear that neglecting this debt can really sabotage your progress.
It will catch up to you eventually.
In the long run, for sure.
Absolutely.
So what's the antidote?
Yeah. Is there a solution?
Is there any hope for us?
There are ways to manage it.
Tell me more.
Well, the report points to XaaS.
XaaS.
Yeah, or anything as a service.
Okay.
Essentially cloud computing.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't tech wizards, could you break that down for us?
Sure.
What is XaaS and how can it help with this tech debt issue?
Think of it as a way to simplify your technology.
Okay.
Instead of having all these different systems and
yeah.
applications running on your own servers,
Yeah.
you can move them to the cloud.
Okay.
This makes it easier to manage and update everything.
So it's like decluttering your tech closet
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and moving everything into a more organized storage unit.
That's a great analogy. It's about consolidation and making things more efficient.
I like that.
Makes sense, right?
It does. So we've talked about the pressure to keep up with everything,
Yeah, the gotta have it now feeling.
the dangers of tech debt,
It's a real threat.
and this potential of XaaS.
XaaS to the rescue.
But let's get down to brass tacks here.
Okay, let's do
Is all this tech investment actually paying off?
That's the million-dollar question.
Is it worth it?
Well, the good news is, it is.
It is.
Yeah, the report actually found that 87% of companies are reporting profit increases.
Seriously?
Yeah, from their tech efforts.
That's amazing.
And that's a 25% jump from last year.
Wow, that's a pretty significant increase.
It's huge.
So what's driving these gains? Where are companies seeing the biggest return?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
The report tells us that data analytics and AI automation, those are the real MVPs
There,
when it comes to boosting profits.
data and AI.
The power couple of the tech world.
So it's not just hype.
No, they're delivering
They're actually delivering.
real results.
That's good to hear.
It is, and we'll delve deeper into those areas later on.
Can't wait.
It's fascinating stuff.
87% are seeing profit increases.
That's a lot of companies.
But how much are we talking here? Like, is this a tiny bump or a significant boost?
Well, the most common profit boost reported was in the 11–15% range.
Wow.
So not chump change.
That's not insignificant.
No, it's not.
It's a question worth pondering.
Definitely. Think about it.
Would that kind of return be meaningful for your work?
Yeah. Put yourself in those shoes.
I think so. It puts things into perspective.
Absolutely.
Okay, so data is clearly playing the starring role.
Oh, yeah. Data is king.
But let's talk about data maturity for a second.
Okay.
Because you can have all the data in the world,
Right.
but if you don't know how to use it,
It's useless.
well, it's not going to do you much good.
It's like having a sports car but not knowing how to drive stick.
Uh-huh. I love that analogy.
You're not going to get very far.
Nope, you're going to stall out.
Exactly. But there is some good news here.
Okay, tell me the good news.
Data proficiency is on the rise.
It is.
Yeah. The report shows that over 50% of companies now fall into those top 2 data maturity levels.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. It's up from 40% just last year.
That's a big jump in just a year.
It is. Companies are really stepping up their game.
What's driving that improvement? What are they doing differently?
Well, cloud platforms are playing a key role.
They are.
Yeah, they're making it so much easier for companies to manage and integrate their data.
That makes sense.
It's like having the right tools and infrastructure in place.
Yeah, to get those data engines running smoothly.
Exactly. They're providing that foundation.
So we're getting better at handling all this data.
We are.
But are we actually using it to make decisions?
That's the real test.
Especially when it comes to those tech choices.
The ones that really matter.
Yeah, what does the report say about that?
Well, it highlights this importance of feedback.
Well, feedback, that's a good thing.
It is both from customers and employees.
Makes sense. Get input from everyone.
Exactly. And it can be a real guide for tech decisions.
It should be.
In fact, using that kind of feedback is seen as the #1 tactic for quick wins.
That makes sense.
Listen to your users.
They're the ones who are actually interacting with your products and services.
They're the ones on the front lines.
So you got to listen to them, right?
Absolutely. But here's the thing.
What's that?
A whopping 78% of companies admit
They what?
they're terrible at actually using this feedback.
Oh no, so all those surveys,
That effort.
focus groups, the feedback forms,
Gathering dust.
it's all going to waste.
Potentially, yeah.
That's a shame.
It is. It's like asking for directions but then ignoring the GPS.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't. And this raises a really important question.
For all of us, yeah.
Are we truly listening to our users?
It's a good question.
What opportunities might we be missing out on because we're not incorporating that feedback?
It's easy to get caught up in our own
I
assumptions
know, in our own little bubbles.
about what users want or need.
We think we know best.
We have to make a conscious effort to listen and actually use that feedback.
Exactly. It's not just about collecting it.
Right. Actually implement it.
And the report actually has this great quote from Microsoft's Michelle Chang.
Well, what did she say?
She said, "Look for the pain points. That's where tech can be uniquely helpful.
It's about solving real problems
Not just chasing the trends.
or building things for the sake of building them.
No, it's about making a difference."
Solving real problems for real people.
Exactly.
And speaking of trends,
Oh boy, here we go.
we can't ignore the elephant in the room.
The big AI.
It's everywhere we turn these days.
It's unavoidable.
But is it really living up to all the hype?
Yeah. Is it all it's cracked up to be?
What does the report say?
It's a mixed bag, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's no denying that AI has this immense potential.
It does.
And the report shows that 74% of companies are already seeing a boost.
Wow. 74%.
And their knowledge worker productivity thanks to AI.
So there's some real value there.
Definitely. It's not just smoke and mirrors.
It's not just hype.
Real tangible benefits.
But I'm sure there's some caveats too, right?
There are.
What are they?
Well, only 31% of companies have actually managed to scale AI to production.
Really?
That's a pretty big gap.
So there's a lot of experimentation happening.
Tons of it, which is great.
It is.
But as those AI use cases get more complex,
it gets trickier.
it does. The report predicts a shift toward more centralized control.
So the Wild West days of AI might be coming to an end.
Yeah, maybe.
More rules and regulations.
Potentially. But there's another interesting point the report raises.
What's that?
AI is causing some serious workforce anxiety.
Oh, yeah. The whole robots are coming for our jobs thing.
Exactly. 77% of companies
Wow.
anticipate challenges to their operational structures
Potentially impacting jobs.
and raising some ethical questions.
It's that black box problem.
People are afraid of what they don't understand.
So how do we address that fear? How do we make sure that AI is used responsibly and ethically?
That's the big question.
It's a big one.
The report highlights this thing called the KPMG Trusted AI Framework
Okay.
as a potential solution.
What is that?
It's a structured approach to AI adoption
So it's a framework.
with a focus on ethics, fairness, and sustainability,
I like that, making sure that AI benefits everyone.
not just a select few.
That's reassuring.
It's about finding the right balance.
Between innovation and responsibility.
Exactly.
It's not all doom and gloom with AI.
Yeah, far from it.
We just have to be smart about it.
And speaking of responsibility,
Yes.
we can't ignore the role of security and trust.
Especially in this increasingly data-driven world.
It's more important than ever.
So what does the report have to say about that?
Well, it highlights this really interesting pattern.
Oh,
Those high-performing companies,
yeah.
they're way more focused on cybersecurity metrics than others.
They are?
Yeah, they're taking it seriously.
That makes sense.
They're also much more confident in their ability to measure their success in this area.
So it's not just about talking the talk.
No, it's about walking the walk.
When it comes to security,
They're not just checking boxes.
right? They're really integrating it into everything they do.
Exactly.
So it's not just about having the latest firewall.
Or antivirus software.
It's about having a security-first mindset
It's about culture
that permeates the entire organization.
from the top down.
Yeah.
And they're not just reactive.
They're proactive.
They're playing chess, not checkers.
They're thinking several steps ahead
Anticipating those threats.
and putting those measures in place to prevent them.
Exactly. They're on top of it.
So they're laser-focused on data security,
Absolutely.
governance, and accessibility.
They recognize that data is their most valuable asset.
They're treating it accordingly
They're investing in the right tools and processes,
to make sure that their data is accurate.
reliable and protected.
They're really prioritizing data hygiene.
Regularly auditing, cleaning it up, making sure it's organized.
It's like keeping a tidy house.
The best analogy.
If you don't stay on top of things, it can get overwhelming. But those high-performing companies understand that a clean and well-organized data environment,
It's essential.
it's essential for making informed decisions and driving business value.
Well said.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground already in this first part of our deep dive,
We have.
but there's still so much more to explore.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started. Welcome back to our deep dive.
Into the KPMG Global Tech Report.
For 2024, it's been fascinating so far.
It has. We're focusing in on those high-performing companies.
The ones who seem to have figured it all out.
They've cracked the code when it comes to tech.
One of the things that really sets these leaders apart
What's that?
is their ability to resist that FOMO.
That fear of missing out.
that can lead to those impulsive tech decisions.
They're not just chasing the hype,
Nope, they're thinking strategically.
making sure every move aligns with their bigger goals.
It's about the big picture.
The report actually shows that these high performers are 23 percentage points
That's huge
less likely to be worried about keeping up with the pace of change.
compared to other organizations.
And they're far less likely to adopt a technology.
just because everyone else is doing it.
So how do they stay so grounded?
How do they avoid getting swept up in the frenzy?
Yeah, what's their secret?
Well, they're masters of course correction.
Course correction.
83% of these leaders are constantly evaluating the business value
Oh, wow.
of their tech investment,
They're constantly checking in.
making sure those tech choices are actually delivering results
And not just adding complexity or cost.
or just becoming shelfware
And they're not afraid to pivot.
if something isn't working.
So it's this proactive
Adaptive approach.
that allows them to stay agile.
In a world that's constantly changing.
This is all starting to sound familiar.
How so?
It seems like this data-driven decision-making is a recurring theme here.
Oh, absolutely. These high performers are 21 percentage points more likely to run calculations
Wow.
and forecast the value of a tech initiative.
Before they invest,
They're doing their homework.
crunching the numbers and really thinking it through.
And it's not just about internal data either.
What else?
They're tapping into external expertise.
They're asking for help.
They are. 93% of these high performers plan to expand their ecosystem of partners.
Compared to how many others?
Only 70% of other companies.
That's a big difference.
It is. They recognize the value of collaboration.
They understand they don't have to have all the answers themselves.
It's about leveraging the expertise of others
I'm building those networks
and creating these powerful alliances.
to stay ahead of the curve.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. And these high performers are also aware of the dangers of tech debt.
They're not immune to it,
They actually rank it as one of the top challenges.
hindering their digital transformation progress.
That seems counterintuitive.
How so?
You'd think these tech-savvy leaders would have their systems in perfect shape.
Well, even the most sophisticated setups can accumulate tech debt.
So it's not about avoiding it altogether.
No.
It's about having a plan to address it.
And making sure it doesn't get out of control.
They're constantly evaluating their systems
Identifying those areas that need attention
and making sure they're investing.
in both new technologies and maintaining their existing infrastructure.
It's about finding that balance between innovation and sustainability.
You can't just keep adding new things without taking care of what you already have.
Exactly.
Now, another area where these high performers excel
What's that?
is their approach to defining and delivering value.
Tell me more about that.
It goes way beyond just looking at the numbers.
Okay, so we talked about how they're data-driven,
Yes,
but it sounds like they're taking a more holistic view.
absolutely. They're not just focused on financial metrics
Right.
like profit margins and ROI,
What else are they looking at?
things like customer satisfaction,
Make sense?
employee engagement, and even their impact on sustainability.
So they're measuring success in a much broader sense.
It's about the bigger picture.
Aligning those tech investments with their broader goals.
Exactly. It's not just about making money.
Right.
It's about making a positive impact.
On their customers, their employees, and the world around them.
It's about purpose.
I love that. Using tech as a force for good.
Now, I know some of our listeners might be thinking,
What are they thinking?
this is all well and good for these big, successful companies,
Yeah.
but what about everyone else?
How can we apply these insights to our own work?
Especially if we're not leading a massive tech team.
That's a great question.
And the good news is you don't have to be a Fortune 500 company.
To adopt these best practices.
It's about taking those core principles and applying them to your own context.
So where do we begin? What's the first step?
Start by defining your own version of success.
Yep.
What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve with technology?
Get clear on your why.
Exactly. Don't jump on the tech bandwagon without a clear understanding of where you're going.
And how technology can help you get there.
Once you know where you're headed, you can start to map out a plan.
And don't be afraid to ask for help along the way.
There are so many resources available.
Like what?
Industry reports like this one, consultants, mentors, even online communities.
It's about tapping into those networks.
Asking questions and learning from the experiences of others.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Technology is constantly evolving, so be prepared to adapt and learn along the way.
Don't let the pace of change overwhelm you.
Embrace the challenge.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Try new technologies.
Play around with new tools and see how you can use them to solve problems.
Create value and make your work even more impactful.
Get your hands dirty. Don't be afraid to break things.
Virtually, of course.
Embrace that spirit of curiosity.
And experimentation.
And be data-driven in your decision-making.
Don't just rely on your gut.
Gather that data, analyze it.
And use those insights to inform your choices.
Whether you're evaluating a new tech solution,
designing a new product, or even developing a marketing campaign,
let data be your guide.
It'll help you make more informed decisions.
And ultimately, more successful decisions.
And speaking of data, never underestimate the importance of security.
That's right. Protect your own data and the data of your organization.
Use strong passwords.
Be wary of phishing scams.
Keep your software updated.
And if you see something suspicious, report it immediately.
It's about being proactive.
Not reactive.
Don't wait for a security breach to happen before you take action.
Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve.
And finally,
What's that?
be a responsible tech citizen.
Oh.
Think about the ethical implications of the technologies you're using.
And developing.
Consider the impact on jobs, privacy, society, and the environment.
And use your voice.
Advocate for the responsible and ethical use of technology.
It's a time of incredible opportunity in the world of tech.
But it's also a time of great responsibility.
It's up to all of us to ensure that technology is used for good.
That it benefits everyone.
And that it helps create a better future.
For ourselves and for generations to come.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
Into the KPMG Global Tech Report for 2024.
We've covered so much ground already.
We've unpacked those pressures and the dilemmas
And even some of those brilliant strategies.
that are shaping the tech landscape in 2024.
Now it's time to distill it all down.
What are those key takeaways?
What are the nuggets of wisdom that you can actually use?
the things you can put into practice?
That's right. We've done all the heavy lifting.
Sifting through the data and the insights
And now we're going to equip you with the knowledge you need.
to navigate the world of tech.
Not just in 2024, but in the years to come.
So, where do we even begin?
That's a good question.
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways,
Yeah.
and it's a theme that runs throughout this whole report,
Yep.
is this need to move beyond FOMO.
That fear of missing out.
It can be so tempting to chase after every shiny new thing,
He can lead us down some rabbit holes, for sure.
making us jump on every new gadget or platform without really thinking it through.
Without a strategy.
The high performers in this report, they're not falling for that trap.
They're not chasing every trend.
They're taking a much more measured and strategic approach
They're laser focused on solving real problems.
and delivering tangible value.
It's not about the hype, it's about the impact.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key takeaway. Data is king.
We keep coming back to data.
It's everywhere.
But it's not just about having data, it's about what you do with it.
You can have mountains of data,
You have-
but if you don't know how to analyze it or interpret it,
or extract any meaningful insights from it.
it's not going to do you much good.
It's like having a library full of books but never reading them.
Exactly, and that's where data maturity comes in.
The companies that are truly thriving,
They're not just collecting data
they're using it
to make informed decisions
to optimize their operations.
and to create those incredible experiences for their customers.
And speaking of data, we have to talk about AI.
It's the elephant in the room.
It's undeniably one of the most powerful technologies we have today.
But it's not a magic bullet.
It's not a plug-and-play solution.
The report highlights both the immense potential of AI
Right.
and the potential pitfalls if it's not implemented thoughtfully.
So on the one hand, AI is boosting productivity,
Driving innovation.
even creating new industries.
But on the other hand, there are those concerns about job displacement,
The ethical implications.
the potential for bias,
We need to make sure that AI is developed and used ethically.
and in a way that benefits everyone,
It's a powerful tool,
that requires careful consideration,
a clear understanding of its capabilities and limitations.
and a commitment to using it responsibly.
It's not something to just jump into without a plan.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another crucial takeaway.
What's that?
Security and trust are paramount.
In this digital age especially.
We're living in a world where data breaches and cyber attacks are becoming more and more common.
It's not a matter of if, but when these things will happen.
Exactly. And the companies that are really excelling,
They're not just reacting to threats.
they're actively working to prevent them,
They've adopted that security-first mindset.
weaving security into everything they do,
From the design of their products and services
the way they manage their data.
to how they train their employees.
It's about building trust.
with customers, partners, and stakeholders.
And in this hyper-connected world, trust is more valuable than ever.
Okay, so those are some of the big picture takeaways.
The things that really stood out.
But let's bring it down to a more personal level.
Right. What can you do as an individual
to navigate this tech landscape and thrive in this data-driven world?
Well, one of the most important things you can do is become a lifelong learner.
The tech industry moves so fast.
If you're not constantly learning and updating your skills,
You're going to fall behind.
it's not about getting a degree and then coasting.
It's about embracing continuous learning.
Read those industry reports, attend conferences, take online courses,
Listen to podcasts.
connect with other professionals,
And never stop learning and growing.
and don't just be a passive consumer of information.
What should we do?
Get out there and experiment.
Try new technologies
Play around with new tools
and see how you can use them to solve problems,
to create value.
to make your work even more impactful.
Get your hands dirty.
Don't be afraid to break things.
Virtually, of course.
Embrace that spirit of curiosity and experimentation
And be data-driven.
in your decision-making.
Don't just rely on your gut or anecdotal evidence.
Gather that data, analyze it.
Use those insights to inform your choices.
Whether you're evaluating a new tech solution,
Designing a product, or even developing a marketing campaign.
let data be your guide.
It will help you make better decisions.
More informed decisions.
And ultimately, more successful decisions.
Speaking of data,
Oh, here we go again.
never underestimate the importance of security.
Protect your own data and the data of your organization.
Use strong passwords.
Be wary of those phishing scams.
Keep your software up to date.
And if you see something suspicious,
Report it.
immediately.
It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Don't wait for a security breach to happen.
Right.
Stay vigilant and stay ahead of the curve.
And finally,
What's that?
I feel like there's always one more thing.
Be a responsible tech citizen.
What does that mean?
Think about the ethical implications of the technologies you're using.
And developing.
Consider the impact on jobs, on privacy, on society, on the environment.
It's a big picture thing.
And use your voice to advocate for the responsible and ethical use of technology.
This is a time of incredible opportunity in tech.
But it's also a time of great responsibility,
It's up to all of us to make sure that technology is used for good
that it benefits everyone,
and that it helps create a better future.
for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's a great note to end on.
I think so too.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the KPMG Global Tech Report for 2024.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We've learned so much.
I know I have.
We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights from this report.
Things that you can apply to your own work and life,
The future of tech is being shaped right now.
and you have the power to be a part of it.
So go out there, be bold, be curious, be responsible, and keep pushing those boundaries.
Of what's possible with technology.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.